So people often want to know what inspired you to write a book. And I can say with this book, what inspired me was doubt, or skepticism, or mistrust, whatever you want to call it. Because a few years ago, I was reading a story about someone who suffered an injury to one part of his brain, and his behavior changed in kind of a strange way afterward. And I was reading this story, and I just said to myself, bull sugar, I said. There's no way that this story is true. That cannot possibly be right. But I forgot about it for a little bit. Then I read about something kind of similar a few weeks later. And again, I said to myself, baloney. There's no way this is true. That just cannot be true. I mean, I write about some odd science things there, but this just seems too outlandish. So this book started because I wanted to get to the bottom of these stories and figure out whether or not they were true. And I found out that not only were they true, but they revealed some very interesting things about how the brain works. It was stories about people who lost something kind of startlingly specific about their mental repertoire. If you get injured in a certain spot in your temporal lobe, which is on the side of your brain near the temple, you get injured in a very specific spot in the temporal lobe, all knowledge of animals can just disappear out of your mind completely. Elephants, dogs, raccoons, whatever. These all look exactly the same to you suddenly. You cannot tell them apart. It's just animals that disappear out of their mind. But if you get nicked in another spot of your temporal lobe, just a little bit off, all knowledge of plants will just disappear out of your mind. You can't tell peas, carrots, pineapples, whatever. They look exactly the same to you. You can learn a lot about the brain just by looking at different injuries and what each one teaches you. And I was kind of thinking to myself one day, I thought, wow, I bet you could write a whole history of the brain just based on these individual stories and what they teach you about the brain. And then sort of the cartoon light bulb went off over my brain, and I said, wow, I should write a book like that. And that's where this book came from, the Dueling Neurosurgeons. Virtually all major discoveries in the history of neuroscience came about because of stories like these. And in fact, I think stories probably mean more to neuroscience than maybe any other scientific field out there. They're really woven into the core of neuroscience. So I'm happy to be able to share a few of those stories with you today.